My name's Olivia and this is Ahmed.
And you're watching Walt Disney Conspiracy Theories.
Our conspiracy theory is that Walt Disney's body is frozen and could be brought back to life with technology that would allow it. It is rumored that his body is buried under the ride Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland in California.
Walt Disney was born December 5th, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois. He died December 15th, 1966 in Los Angeles, California. He was an American motion picture and television producer and showman, famous as a pioneer of animated cartoon films and the creator of such cartoon characters like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. He built Disneyland, which is a huge amusement park that opened in Los Angeles in 1955. He had begun building a second park near Orlando, Florida. He was the fourth son to be born to Elias Disney and Flora Call. Elias Disney, a peripatetic carpenter, farmer, and building contractor. Flora Call was a public school teacher. When Walt was a little older than an infant, the family moved to a farm near Marceline, Missouri, a typical small Midwestern town. This is where Walt began school and first showed a liking for drawing and painting with crayons and watercolors. In 1917, the Disneys moved back to Chicago, Illinois, and Walt entered McKinley High School, where he took photographs, made drawings for the school paper, and studied cartooning on the side, for he was hopeful of eventually achieving a job as a newspaper cartoonist. Returning to Kansas City in 1919, he found occasional employment as a draftsman and inker in a commercial art studio, where he met Ub Iwerks, a young artist whose talents contributed greatly to Walt's early success. Disney and Iwerks started a small studio of their own in 1922 and acquired a second-hand movie camera with which they made 1- and 2-minute animated advertising films for distribution to local movie theaters. They did a series of animated cartoon sketches called Laugh-O-Grams and a pilot film for a series of 7-minute fairy tales that combined both live action and animation called Alice in Cartoonland.
Many people have different opinions on if this is true or not. But what does Walt Disney's daughter have to say about this conspiracy theory? Walt Disney's daughter, Diane, refuted such a theory many years before. His daughter stated, "There is absolutely no truth to the rumor that my father, Walt Disney, wished to be frozen." Bob Nelson stated, "Walt Disney wanted to be frozen, but he missed out. He never specified it in writing. And when he died, the family didn't go for it. They had him cremated. I personally have seen his ashes." His daughter also confirmed that. That same year, Disney's daughter, Diane, was the first member of the Disney family to poke holes in the rumor that her father had been cryogenically frozen, saying she doubted he had even heard of cryonics. So overall, most of the people close to Walt Disney do not believe that he was frozen.
This is our temporary cooling box. My father's in this box right now.
Edinger died last week and now rests here, peacefully, next to his mother, Rhea, his first wife, Elaine, and his second wife, May.
My father's intention was that he and his family and his friends get a chance to live longer and to take advantage of the promise of future technology. He believed, like a lot of people do, that in the future we're going to have dramatically greater medical technology, and the question is, how do you get them from here to there? And cryonics is kind of an ambulance to the future.
And as the saying goes, the apples don't fall far from the tree.
I intend to do this as well. My wife does, and I'm very happy that we were able to do this for my father.
For about $30,000, you can too. Currently, there are over 200 people in frozen state at cryonic centers in the U.S. Some 2,000 have signed up for it. Scientists are freezing endangered animal species at this virtual frozen zoo in Louisiana.
One of the most well-known and widely believed of all of Hollywood's urban legends is that although Walt Disney died in December 1966, he might still just make a comeback. The story goes that Uncle Walt arranged to have his body cryonically frozen so that he could be brought back to life once medical science had got past the whole death thing. The rumor I heard at school was that it was actually just his head that was preserved, which I suppose would take up less space in a freezer. Another variation is that Walt, or Walt's head, is now hidden beneath Disneyland's Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which opened 3 months after his death. Not a very practical place to keep a canister of human remains and liquid nitrogen, but the idea does add a certain frisson to an already spooky ride. Disappointingly though, there is zero evidence that Walt Disney ever wanted to put himself in the deep freeze. Some say that the rumour was started by a few of the animators who worked for him, but there are documents to verify that he was cremated and interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, California. Walt's daughter Diane said in 1972 that she doubted her father had even heard of cryonics. Mind you, the fact that she commented on the rumour just goes to show how rife it was even then. So, what makes it the most popular Disney fairy tale since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? For one thing, it is just about plausible. Walt was a massively wealthy and ambitious tycoon with a passion for futuristic technology, such as the monorail at Disneyland, so the big freeze might have been tempting. For another thing, around the time of Walt's death, cold storage was a hot topic. Robert Ettinger's book about cryonics, The Prospect of Immortality, was published in 1964. That inspired a former TV repairman called Bob Nelson to become president of the Cryonic Society of California. And it was Nelson who told the Los Angeles Times in 1972 that Walt really wanted to be frozen, but that the pair of them couldn't quite sort out the paperwork in time. It's up to you whether you believe Nelson or whether you think he was just promoting his business, but he definitely helped to link Walt Disney to cryonics in the public's imagination. In fact, the rumour is so persistent that it has sparked another even crazier one, that the smash hit cartoon Frozen was made specifically so that when people Googled Disney and Frozen, they would no longer get any results about Walt's non-existent scheme to turn himself into a human ice cube. All I can tell you is that if that was the plan, it didn't work.
The first video describes how people are freezing themselves after death, and it is a real thing that people are doing this and hoping that the future with advanced technologies and new sciences can bring them back to life. They are even freezing animals that are endangered to bring them back as well as to repopulate them. But no one yet has ever been brought back to life, and the scientist himself who created this is now frozen too. The second video describes more on the conspiracy theory about Walt Disney that his body is frozen, or even just his head had been froze underneath the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland. But there is no proof that Walt is frozen, but that he had been cremated. And in order to stop the rumors, the movie Frozen was created so you couldn't find any information about the conspiracy theory when looking up Disney Frozen.
A popular conspiracy that ties to Walt being frozen is that the movie Frozen was created to change the search results of people looking up if he actually was preserved. When the movie wasn't out, you could search about him being cryogenically frozen under Disney World, but now you mostly get movie results. Walt died due to complications during his lung surgery and is believed to be preserved under the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Walt had an immense interest in cryogenics, which is why he might have been preserved.
It has been further proved by people that there are signed legal documents indicating that Disney was cremated and that his remains are buried in a marked plot in Forest Lawn. For all accounts, it was known that Disney was a very private man in life, so the silent circumstances of his cremation and burial are far from suspicious. Disney was known to have been preoccupied with death. His funeral services were held in secret, and the cause of his death was never formally announced. Poundstone, however, was able to get a copy of the death certificate, which says Walt Disney died of cancer of the left lung and was cremated in Forest Lawn Cemetery.